Law enforcement sources are expecting the feds to widen the Diddy probe to include previous criminal investigations.
I got 3 kids now, and it's a whole long road later, and I have a much better sort of perspective on it.
Federal agents raided Diddy's mansions, and they weren't just looking for drugs or weapons. What they found could destroy more than just his legacy, because buried inside that empire of chaos were tapes. Tapes that reportedly show Hollywood elites doing things they never wanted anyone to see. And one name stood out: Jennifer Lopez. This story isn't just about Diddy. It's about who helped protect him, who kept quiet, and who might have known far more than they let on. According to insiders, one of those tapes might feature Jennifer Lopez caught in something deeply compromising. And what's worse, Ben Affleck, her husband at the time, allegedly saw it with his own eyes. Rumors say the feds showed it to him personally. The moment he found out, everything changed. Then came Suge Knight. Yes, that's Suge Knight, who's now running a podcast from behind bars. He dropped a chilling theory. J.Lo wasn't just a girlfriend. She might have been a handler, someone who knew how deep Diddy's operations went and stayed close anyway. Now the timelines are starting to match up. Ben and Jennifer's breakup, Diddy's homes being raided, the sudden silence from stars who usually have something to say. None of this feels random anymore. And if what's being whispered is even half true, Jennifer Lopez could be tied to one of the biggest celebrity scandals in modern history. But that's only scratching the surface, because the real twist comes when you rewind the clock and realize this all started decades ago. When federal agents raided Diddy's mansions in Los Angeles and Miami, they weren't empty-handed. Reports say they walked away with a digital time bomb, dozens of videotapes allegedly showing celebrities in compromising, even illegal situations. These weren't random clips, they were collected, stored, hidden. But there was one tape that stood out. Insiders claim one of the agents gave Ben Affleck a courtesy call, a warning, but also a revelation. The story goes that the FBI wanted to show him what his wife had been involved in. Jennifer Lopez, on camera, allegedly doing things no one would expect from a global superstar. What Ben saw, according to whispers, broke him. Until that moment, most believed Ben and Jennifer's rekindled love was unshakable, the ultimate Hollywood fairy tale. But almost overnight, cracks began to show. He looked tense in public, withdrawn, and just weeks later, he moved out. Some believe the tape wasn't just scandalous, it was dangerous. Suge Knight hinted that Jennifer was more than just a partner to Diddy. He called her a handler, a person trusted to keep things under wraps, keep the game running smoothly. And if true, that means Jennifer may have known far more about Diddy's operations than anyone realized. Even more disturbing, this isn't the first time Jennifer's name has come up during Diddy's darkest moments. She was with him during the infamous 1999 nightclub shooting. She was there when the narrative began to spin, and while Shine went to prison for it, Diddy walked free. Jennifer? She disappeared from the story entirely, until now. It wasn't just a breakup. It was a cover-up unraveling, but that wasn't the full story, because one man in prison knew exactly what was going on, and he was ready to talk. It didn't take long after the raid for whispers to turn into full-blown panic. Inside Hollywood, phones stopped ringing, emails went dead, people who were always front and center suddenly disappeared from red carpets and press junkets. But the one name that kept surfacing behind closed doors? Jennifer Lopez. Because according to multiple insiders, she wasn't just involved. She was protected. Powerful lawyers, airtight NDAs, quiet settlements. Even her closest inner circle started distancing themselves. Nobody wanted to be tied to what the feds were allegedly uncovering. And then came the bombshell. Someone close to the investigation leaked that a tape featuring Jennifer and Diddy had been recovered. Not just any tape, but footage taken without consent, reportedly showing behavior that could flip the public's entire perception of both stars. That's when Ben Affleck stepped out of the shadows. Those close to him say he'd been holding his silence for years. But when the evidence was placed in front of him, when he saw what Jennifer may have been hiding, it all snapped into focus. Their quiet divorce, his battles with addiction, the sudden media blackout. It wasn't just heartbreak, It was damage control. People began to connect the dots. Why had Jennifer always deflected questions about Diddy? Why was she absent during key moments of his unraveling? And why, after so many years, was she suddenly back in the headlines now? Then came Suge Knight's claim that sealed the theory for many. Jennifer wasn't just a victim of Diddy's toxic orbit, she was a part of it. But Suge wasn't done talking, and what he said next would blow the story wide open. From behind prison walls, Suge Knight was no longer playing games. Through his podcast Collect Calls with Suge Knight, he dropped a statement that hit like a wrecking ball. The federal agents didn't just raid Diddy's mansions for paperwork, they left with tapes, and not just tapes of Diddy, but of Jennifer Lopez. And here's the disturbing part, Suge claims those tapes prove Jennifer wasn't just complicit, she was allegedly protecting Diddy. That she played a role in covering up the nightclub shooting that sent rapper Shine to prison. And when the feds showed Ben Affleck those tapes, that's when the breakup became non-negotiable. Suge didn't mince words. He claimed the feds sat Ben down and said, "We want to show you some things about your wife." And according to Suge, Ben's reaction said it all. He wasn't angry. He was stunned, like someone who'd just realized he had been living next to a ticking time bomb. This wasn't just about a failed celebrity romance anymore. This was about evidence, trust shattered, and reputations on the edge of total collapse. And in classic Suge fashion, he didn't stop there. He hinted that more names were coming, that Jennifer wasn't the only A-lister tied to these tapes, that there's an entire Hollywood network built on silence, secrets, and control, and the raid just cracked it open. If what Suge said is true, Ben's next move could change everything. A testimony from him wouldn't just expose Jennifer, it could pull other celebrities into the fire. But this wasn't the first relationship of hers that fell apart under the shadow of Diddy's influence. Long before the Ben drama, before the red carpets and power couple headlines, there was Ojani Noah, Jennifer Lopez's first husband, a quiet man, a dreamer, and according to him, the first casualty of her connection to Diddy. When they married in the late 90s, he thought he was building a life with a rising star. But behind closed doors, he says things took a turn the moment Diddy entered the picture. Jennifer had started working on her debut album on the 6th, and suddenly, she was flying back and forth between cities. Late nights, studio sessions, excuses. Ojani says she changed, became distant, cold, and he had a gut feeling. This wasn't just about music. Something else was pulling her away. That something, he claims, was Diddy. Not just a producer, not just a collaborator, a force that completely disrupted their marriage. But it didn't stop with emotional distance. Ojani alleges that once she decided to leave, she didn't just walk away, she detonated everything. He says she took him to court, spread lies, had him blacklisted in the industry, that she made sure no one would work with him again. He went from husband to collateral damage. He called it a betrayal he never recovered from, one that turned his life upside down. And as Jennifer stepped out publicly with Diddy, all diamonds, flashing cameras, and Versace, Ojani says he was left in the dust, confused and humiliated. Their short-lived marriage was quickly buried under the headlines of Diddy and Jenny's new love story. But behind all that glamour, there was real destruction, a life upended, a man silenced, and according to him, it was all orchestrated so Diddy could have full control over Jennifer, with no one else in the way. But what came next was even more disturbing, because it revealed that Diddy's grip on Jennifer wasn't just professional or romantic, it was something darker. On the outside, Jennifer Lopez and Sean Diddy Combs looked like the ultimate power couple, the queen of Latin pop and the king of hip-hop. But on the inside, their relationship was spiraling into something toxic, something that would leave deep scars. Diddy wasn't just possessive, he was volatile. Rumors began to swirl that their love story came with strings, manipulation, infidelity, and a level of control that went far beyond romance. Friends close to Jennifer described red flags early on. He'd vanish without explanation. She'd be seen pounding on hotel doors looking for him, crying. The lavish gifts and photo ops were one thing, but behind the scenes, she was unraveling. In an old interview, she admitted, It was the first time I was with someone who wasn't faithful. I was in this relationship with Puff where I was totally crying, crazy, and going nuts. That's not heartbreak. That's emotional damage, and it got worse. A now infamous rumor, whispered for years, claimed that Diddy cheated on her at her own party while she was upstairs. Allegedly, she had planned the entire evening to celebrate him, but he used it as an opportunity to betray her in the worst possible way. Even if she denied the story publicly, insiders say the emotional toll was undeniable. Jennifer's sparkle started to fade, her trust in people gone. And when she finally left, it wasn't with fanfare. It wasn't public. It was quiet, like someone escaping. She didn't explain. She didn't retaliate. She just walked. And to this day, some believe it was because she knew speaking out would cost her everything. But she didn't walk away untouched, because something from that relationship, something dark, never really left her. And the most disturbing part, that same influence would rear its head years later, in her second attempt at love with Ben Affleck. And it all started coming back to the surface when the feds showed up at Diddy's house and brought his secrets with them. When federal agents raided Sean Diddy Combs' properties in Los Angeles and Miami, they weren't just looking for paperwork or financial records. They came prepared for something bigger. What they allegedly found? A vault of hidden tapes, encrypted files, and safes filled with blackmail material. Insiders claimed Diddy had cameras installed throughout his homes, including private rooms, recording high-profile celebrities and associates in moments they never expected to be seen by the public, and one of the names allegedly caught in those recordings, Jennifer Lopez. According to Suge Knight, who's now broadcasting from prison on a podcast called Collect Calls with Suge Knight, the feds didn't just discover the tapes, they used them. Suge claimed they sat Ben Affleck down and showed him footage, not casually, not as a courtesy, but as a strategic move. "We want to show you some things," they allegedly told him, "about your wife. Whatever was on those tapes, it was enough to shake Ben to his core. This wasn't tabloid drama, it wasn't Hollywood gossip. This was something deeper, something that went far beyond cheating rumors or artistic collaborations. This was about being involved, knowingly, or unknowingly, in the operations of one of the most powerful and allegedly corrupt men in the industry. Ben, by all accounts, was blindsided. He had come back into Jennifer's life years after their first failed romance. People thought it was a fairy tale ending, but according to Suge, the fairy tale was a front, and when the curtain got pulled back, Ben saw something he couldn't unsee, something that destroyed the image he had of the woman he married, something that may have sent their already fragile marriage straight into a tailspin. But that wasn't the most disturbing part, because there was still one more man who said Diddy's spell over Jennifer wasn't just emotional, it was dangerous. The pattern was undeniable. Jennifer Lopez didn't just walk away from Diddy and move on. She carried the weight of that relationship with her. From Ojani Noah to Chris Judd, from Mark Anthony to Ben Affleck, every love story ended in turbulence. Every attempt at peace unraveled. And now, after the federal raids, the tapes, the resurfaced interviews, it all pointed back to one man. People close to Jennifer say she was never quite the same after Diddy, that her sparkle dimmed, that her trust vanished, that the emotional chaos he brought into her life left scars so deep they shaped every relationship that followed. Suge Knight said it best. It wasn't just love, it was control. And when someone holds that kind of power over you for years, it doesn't vanish when the relationship ends. It lingers. It festers. Jennifer never exposed Diddy. She never came forward, never said the full truth out loud. But maybe she didn't have to. Maybe every move she made, every man she left, every tear she shed behind closed doors was part of the story. And now, as the walls close in on Diddy, as lawsuits pile up and witnesses speak out, the spotlight is drifting back to Jennifer, whether she wants it or not. Was she protecting herself all these years, protecting him, or just trying to survive the damage left in his wake? The truth may never be fully known, but the patterns are there, stitched into every headline, every broken relationship, every quiet moment of reflection she's shared. The man she once loved may now be the reason the world is finally questioning everything. And as the case against Diddy unravels, one thing is clear. No one who stood close to him walked away untouched.